Welcome to Spotlight on New England, where we delve into the diverse and inspiring stories of pastors shaping communities across the New England area. Join us as we unravel their journeys, wisdom, and the unique experiences of these spiritual leaders who are making a profound impact in this region. Get ready for insightful conversations that transcend the pulpit and bring you closer to the heart of each pastor. Would you say that was the greatest challenge you experienced as a pastor?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. To some extent, how do you build confidence in people for them to rely on the church as a place of refuge, as a place of spiritual support? You see, how do you build that capacity, you as the pastor, for the people to consistently rely on you as someone they can call on? And I think it was a challenge, and I had to do that meticulously, knowing these various circumstances. And the thing about it is that they won't even call you a pastor first. Yeah, they won't call you mom pastor. But then over the years since then, they began to call me mom pastor.
Yes.
You see, which made a big difference.
Yeah. More connected.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you share a memorable moment where your faith played a significant role in decision making?
Yeah.
As a pastor or prior to?
Several of them. Several of them. I think this is the aspect of my life, maybe. There is, I always feel that there is a mystical aspect of my life, some things you can put in words, but it's there. When I had to go to Scotland, I didn't know anybody in Scotland. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I got in the plane. I had to leave on the 2nd of February because they told me if you don't come after the 2nd, your admissions will be canceled. I got in the plane. Fortunately, when I got there, there was a storm in 2015 in Boston. And I prayed, and when I got to Scotland, I said, Lord, I don't know anyone here. And I began to pray, I was in a B&B, and this B&B was so expensive. All my little money was going, And so this day, there was this seminar for postgraduate students, for doctoral students. And I went in and was sitting there, and the speaker got through, and it was a Q&A time. Question and answer time. And so I put my hand up and asked a question, and there was a little back and forth. We talked about it. So you say, yeah, okay. Now, after the event, this other student came over to me and said, are you George? I said, my name is George. He said, I think I know you. I said, he's Korean. He said, I know you. I said, from where? He said, were you at BU?
Wow.
I said, yes, I was at BU. He said, were you singing in the choir? Seminary singers? I said, yes. He said, we were tenors together, first tenors. So I looked at him and said, oh, yeah, that's true. He said, my name is Kim. And then he asked me, he said, where are you staying? I said, I'm in a B&B. I don't have a place. He said, oh. He said, okay, pack your things, follow me. I'm moving to a new apartment. You take my place, and I will move to my new place.
Wow.
And that was how I got a place in Scotland.
And so you were in Scotland by faith.
Yes.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I think many of us have faith stories of how we landed in certain places or how we remained in places, knowing that it was, ordained by God. And that if God sent it, then he certainly would provide.
Indeed. And I feel that he sent an angel there to settle me, because I was in that place for about a year, and it was, I think about it all the time.
Yes. Was there a point when you were discouraged, and how did you bounce back?
Yes, there was. There was. There was in 2021. Not necessarily discouraged, but I was teaching. I was teaching. I I was going through a divorce, and I want to talk about it. Yeah, I was going through a divorce. I was teaching, and I had to take care of my kids as well. I had to be a father to them, still maintaining the same schedule that I had, taking them to school, hospital, and then writing, and then trying to take care of a church.
Yeah.
So all of those things in 2000, the latter part of 2021, 2022, are things that motivated me to the extent to which I can confidently say that come what may in my life, I know God will see me through. Because there were moments in my life I really didn't know how I was going to survive. Taking care of my kids, taking care of the church, teaching, and I had, I think, about 4 courses, teaching at BU and teaching at Bunker Hill, all of that. So many nights I would come exhausted, but I think God was there with me. It was evident in my life that I was going through a period in my life. If I could handle it well, it would help me. And out of that, I began to make the conclusion that prayer deals with your attitude first. And if you'll be conscious of it, you will see that it will mold you. So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember that season, and also the faith with which you exhibited through it all.
Thank you.
All right, Reverend George, how do you balance your work life and the ministry, or your? Do you have a work life balance? I'll say it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self care or anything.
I know. I do a lot of things. However, what I've come over the years to realize is self care. How do I take care of myself? I try to go to the gym 2-3 times a week. And I also cook. So I try to cook well. I try to eat well. And I have 2 boys who also like to eat. So, so I try to cook a balanced diet. And then, prayer also makes a big difference for me. If you go through trials and challenges in life,
Yes.
and you realize that if you don't have this element of solitary experience or solitary moment always in your life, you will get confused because you'll be led astray, so to speak. What I mean is that you wouldn't know what to do. You see, because you go through challenges. But what I've come to realize that the moment I start to pray, and that's my refuge. You see, I get peace in my heart. It may be impending, but I've come to realize when I pray, this peace is like God tells me it's okay. You see, and I don't have to worry about it, and I just keep moving on.
Yes, and prayer doesn't always change the situation, but sometimes can change us.
Indeed. And that's what I've come to realize. You pray for people, but sometimes we don't realize that prayer has the potential to change us. Prayer has the potential to make this great impact in our lives, in our perceptions, our attitude. Because the more you pray and you are consciously aware of it, you realize that it changes your attitude, how you respond to situation. You don't become too emotional.
Yes.
You see, or a knee-jerk reaction to situation. Why? Because you've taken time to pray, but it has made an impact in your life. And that's what I've come to realize.
Yes. Yeah. Can you tell us something about yourself that no one knows?
What I would say, again, I said a bit about it, but I like to cook. I like to cook and I like to bake.
Yes, we've enjoyed some of your baked goods.
Those things, they are very real to me. Cooking and preparing dishes for people to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the other thing about it is that I have I'm very eclectic. Okay, I'm very eclectic in the sense that uh, spirituality, academics play a vital role. I don't see them as separate.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I don't see them. Of course, when I'm in the classroom, I'm in the classroom. When I'm in the church, I'm in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also use the church as not only as a pulpit, but as a place to teach.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
See, and that's my calling, my focus in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the pulpit, you can be in the pew and you can be in the classroom in the church.
Yes. All right.
See,
All right. And if you could speak with 3 people, living or dead, who would you select?
3 people, living or dead. Well, and whether recently or several years ago,
Doesn't matter.
and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The person I want to talk to is my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my oldest brother died in the Liberian civil crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and the night before he left us in Monrovia, we slept in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he said, when I come back, because the next morning he was leaving, he said, when I come back, you and I would talk. And so I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the morning, he left. But didn't see him until we got to know that he was killed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get to talk.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to know what he wanted to tell me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see?
Can you imagine anything that it could have possibly been?
Well, I think he also wanted to talk to me about the ministry,
Mm-hmm.
because our mom always told him that you are supposed to be a bishop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our mom would tell him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was into politics.
Mm-hmm.
You see, a very smart man. He was into politics, and he always. And the night before he left, we had a prayer time
Mm-hmm.
in our mom's prayer room. Our mom had a prayer room. We went in there to pray, and this was the fascinating thing. He prayed the longest. Lord, forgive me. I'm a sinner, and he went on and on. And I sat there. I was just okay, you know. And then the song he sang was "Rise Up, O Men of God."
Yeah.
That was his song, you know. And that night, that's when he told me, after the prayer time, we went in the room and then to sleep. And that's what he said, when I come back, I will talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
But then he never came back.
Yeah. What was your brother's name?
William Jaine Walters Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's something. And how long ago?
It was 1990.
Mm-hmm. In the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
1990.
That's something. And who would be the other individuals you'd want to have conversation with?
The other person is St. Augustine.
Okay. Uh-huh.
St. Augustine is quite an interesting person. You know, his mom was also very prayerful, but he fought against becoming a Christian at first. He was a Manichaean, believed in all kinds of Gnostic philosophy and things like that. But then when he became a Christian, I mean, he was passionate about it. He was so involved into it. And you read Augustine's book, The Confession. And one important area, every time I read that book, is how he describes memory. He talks about memory in such a fascinating way that memory is this storehouse, you know. And if you lost something, if you can find something, you go back into memory, you will find it. But then he has this point. He said, if you keep going into memory, you will find something there you didn't put there. And the person who put that thing there is God, who wants you to find it. And I read that and I said, Augustine, how can you shift from being a Manichaean to being this person who is so passionate about this God who visits the consciousness, who visits our mind, our hearts in that way. You know, so I'd love to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, I would like to read more about that memory piece. That is always intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the third person, if there's one?
The third person is Jesus.
Lord willing, you'll get that opportunity, but not too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And part of the question I want to ask is, how was it on the cross? You know, how was it on the cross when you cried, it is finished, or when you even said, into your hands I commit my spirit? And theologian would say at some point God turned his back on you. In that moment, you know, were you purely human, or were you also divine? Because we can only speculate about that. Yes. Whether on the cross he was divine or human, you know. But then he resurrected and ascended. You see, such a mystical and well, some theologian will call it phenomenological. Yeah, you know. And for us, it's, you know, we see we know how that the outcome. Yes. And so to be able to get insight into in the moment would be very powerful. Yes. All right. Yeah. How would you like to be remembered? Ooh. One as someone who was passionate about his calling, but someone who not only was passionate about his calling, but someone who was what I call being in the intellectual industry. Industry. Yes, the intellectual industry, providing knowledge. Providing knowledge, because I feel that's another aspect of my life. And even when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that thoughts come to me about writing, concepts, ideas, and I'm always on the laptop typing things up, you know. So yes, someone who provided knowledge, who contributed to human understanding, not only of society, but also of God, religious, theological mysticism, someone who has contributed to our understanding of Christian theology. You see, of course, my children, to be a good father to my children. Yes. You see, for them to proudly say that our dad took care of us. You see, yeah. All right. We're finished with our main questions, but I have questions that I've been asking everyone that are a little more lighthearted. And if you have time for that, all right. And before we go there, is there anything more that we didn't cover that you would like to add? Well, I would just want to add, I've been working on this 2-volume book called The Rush for Black Diamonds. Yes. And I'm quite excited because it will be published this year by Whip and Stock. And I've been talking about it. It briefly talks about, it looks at the transatlantic slave trade, transition from the transatlantic slave trade to chattel slavery, to colonialism, to penal slavery, and the modern penal system in the U.S. So still connecting that piece there. Are your books used in any academic settings currently? Gradually, people are beginning to realize that, in fact, on academic.ed, academia.ed, people are reading my works, you know, so I'm quite excited about that. Yes. Too. Yeah. Yeah, that's very encouraging, and it inspires you to perhaps carry on a little bit longer. Yes. Yeah. And the other thing is how we can talk, as for people in the church, how can we theologically talk about mass incarceration? In the second volume, I'm talking about the necessity for for prison theology. Okay, what would be a prison theology? So I lay down some paradigms in the second volume about developing a prison theology.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. All right. All right, so on the lighter side, all right? Okay, and so these questions just, whatever comes to your mind, all right? Apples or oranges?
Oranges.
All right. What is the best sandwich?
Fish sandwich.
Sounds good. Most used app on your phone?
Uh, 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 what's Hash App?
Okay. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Oh, cat.
And would you prefer a flight or road trip?
A road trip in the mountains.
And what's one thing you own that you really need to throw away?
Oh, I'm not a hoarder, but the racist sneakers I need to take care of right now.
Sneakers, a few sneakers, all right.
Yes.
And what's one thing you must have if you were stranded on an island?
My glasses or my phone.
Okay. And you get one song to listen to for the rest of your life.
It's well, I would say Amazing Grace.
Okay. And last question, describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
I would say meticulous about his relationship with God, passionate, studious, and always listening to the inner voice, and always reflecting on the night. That is, someone who thinks when I wake up in the morning, what did I see in my dream?
All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Reverend George. We have enjoyed chatting with you and look forward to speaking with you again sometime and hearing more about your journey.
Thank you very much, Presiding Elder. It's quite a pleasure. Thank you for this.
Thank you.